Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at Fast Dirt Rune because Fast Dirt Rune just burns the competition down right now. Plus it just is a solid deck. Obviously it isn't going to top, but it does quite well against Blood and Forest, which have pretty high win rates and usage rates right now, along with the fact that it can also deal with Dragon reasonably well with some of its like Mutagenic Bolt, Stance of Death, things like that, while also being fast enough that you can avoid most of the big drops before you really need to worry. So we'll get right into the game and check it out. Okay, match 1, Shadow. Shadow is a pretty reasonable matchup for this deck. I mean, there isn't too much they can do even if they do play things. As long as you can get more damage on them by turn 7 than they can do to you, you're normally going to be pretty right. Of course, it definitely isn't the most positive matchup. So, starting off solid, Witch's Cauldron straight into Magic Illusionist is probably your best opener. Otherwise, even if you have to, a Starsealer's Telescope into a Magic Illusionist is good. Otherwise, you probably want some combination of in between, so passing turn 1 to 2 as Dirt Rune really feels bad, and you want to avoid doing it as much as possible. But they start off with a really solid play, getting that Belinus and then getting that double draw for practically nothing, while also building up their shadow count. But we do have our little bit of healing, which is going to be pretty good. Could have traded that Magic Illusionist first instead, probably would have been better, could have avoided that 1 damage, but I think it probably would have hit the Magic Illusionist. I'm just not sure of the order of effect anyway, but not a big deal. That single damage on it isn't going to make a big difference against Shadow here, especially when I can play Mage and just evolve. Mage's burn damage is just too good, you really can't pass it up. But of course, you know, they're going to try, so they do clear some stuff, manage that pretty well. Otherwise, I can pretty much roll them from this point forward. I mean, even if they do get rid of something here, I can just deal as much damage as I want, while at the same time clearing off their board at turn 6, so well, won't be a complete clear, but it'll be good enough. Golem plus Crimson, 6 damage to face, plus the Evolve gives me an extra 2. Allows us to do another 6, leaving them with 4. So all we need is something to stick to the board, and then we can pretty much win. Actually, even without sticking something, there's a good chance we'll win. Pity Wizard of Oz wouldn't do it, but Ceres of the Night makes things a little trickier, because we've got to account for that 2 healing. Don't enjoy that too much. But from here, best case scenario, they get that 4/4 proc. They also get a single draw. I can just clear off the entire board if I choose to, or just go straight for damage setting up for next turn. There's quite a few good options, honestly. I feel like Master Mage wouldn't have helped much. At least this way, even if they played Hector, I wouldn't be in trouble, because it just wouldn't quite be enough damage. They would be at 15, I believe, which would have been 1 off. Instead of, you know, clearing their board and hoping that I could win that way. Plus, this board clear is a lot better, being able to get rid of that zombie party. Well, at the same time, putting them to 1, putting them right in range of Death's Breath. Oh, sorry, Dance of Death. Death's Breath, jeez. That's what happens when you play against Shadow, you start thinking of their cards instead. But Dance of Death will be more than enough here, especially since they've gave me a couple targets. But that's pretty much going to close it out. We could have used Mutagenic Bolt as well, we could have played both if we used Wizard, but getting the damage, pretty straightforward. Next up, our Forest matchup. So, Forest being the 3rd most played deck and having the highest win rate in the last week has been pretty crazy. So it's definitely easily in the top 2 decks at the moment overall when looking at win rates and play rates. If you want to check out any of my forest videos, I'm sure you only have to go back through the channel just slightly and you'll find them. Or they may even appear on the side for you if you're lucky. But we have got the Wizardess of Oz. Wizard of Oz is good. I find it's a little tricky to use. It's great to have, but most of the time I don't want to rely on it too hard. I want it to be an extra chance at winning, not the only way to win. Most of the time I like to get as much damage as I can. Unfortunately, since we've got Carl, he's great against Forest, being able just to soak up some of that damage and heal, while throwing down an Earth Sigil for other cards to take advantage of. Really stops you from needing to worry about Roach. Of course, H and Elf, a little odd. Definitely not your traditional Forest deck. Or maybe it is your classic Forest deck, but just not what you'd normally see around now. Do decide to take the full-on trade though. Get to leave up that 4-3, which I know is going to be a little trickier for Forest to completely deal with unless they use Airbound Barrage, which is what I'm kind of baiting out. Or using an Evolve Point, which is their other option. But I do have options going forward. Time Worn Mage will allow me to trade with the board and get some damage to face if I go that way, or actually play both Time Ward and Healing and basically go to 19 for this turn. Alright, so we get that healing. Throwing out the Time Worn's Evolve. And building up that sorcery. Always good to have a sorcery in hand when you need it. And if they don't do much from here, we can pretty easily just swarm them out. So it just depends on what Forest has from here. Fortunately, Elf Girl Liza is a little bit of a pain. Means we can't use most of our actual trade materials, although things like Dance of Death do work because they're not damaged, they're instant destruction. Which actually works pretty well here, really. Like, being able to get that out, kill it off, deal enough damage to face, and leaving their board up like that either is going to force a trade or force them to play something good. Ivy Spellbomb. See, this is a very weird deck for Forest. At least one that I haven't seen before. Not in this way. Who knows, by next week this might be a popular one maybe. But I doubt it. Either way, Levi completely annihilates their board. Now, all we have to do is hope they don't have some combo to go off of, which with the amount of fairies they've played, I don't reckon they have a lot they can take advantage of. And the ward creates a really difficult spot for them to actually kill it off. Not so lucky though, they do get some decent advantage being able to use the fairy driver. I really don't like the fact that they can do that and clear my ward. But with what we've got in hand, Wizardess of Oz may actually be useful, but instead we draw pretty much perfectly into a mage. Otherwise, Wizardess into something else might have been better. Whether it was a mutagenic bolt or piercing runes or something would have been better. But setting them to 5, their Roach combo, not really probably having enough cards in hand, not unless they could somehow have got more procs and stuff, but leaving them short by 4 damage and forcing them to clear off the mage. Not so lucky for me, I don't really have anything else. Luckily though, they did waste that Roach and they have only got 3 cards. Even with a draw, being able to pull off a Roach lethal here is going to be a little tricky. You would need something like double Roach, a removal and a single card to play, I reckon, which obviously they didn't have. And the final matchup is Dragon, a deck that I think we'll see when Shadowlog comes out with their stats, that it's probably risen in popularity in the last week, at least from my experience of playing against it and playing as it. But we have got Dwarven Alchemist, Red Hot Ritual, and Master Mage Levi. Pretty solid cards across the board. Can't go too wrong with any of these plays, honestly. Magic Illusionist, straight into that. Setting up the Ward against Dragon is always good. We're going to have a quite easy follow-up with either Dwarven Alchemist or basically whatever else we choose. And they're not going to easily be able to remove this Magic Illusionist for now. Red Hot Ritual does allow them to ramp. Not too worried about that right now. Really just want to push out these sigils while we're going face. Should have played the other one first though. That way Magic Illusionist would guarantee to proc it on its next destruction, which would have been better than playing Red Hot first. Although it's probably not going to matter in the long run, because we do draw Starseers, which is a double draw and our increase to our play points. So why not? And we also have Dwarven Alchemist. Now it's just a matter of what will take priority. And another Dwarven Alchemist is the answer. Throw out as much damage as we can, force them to hopefully use some removal. Even if they do spend the whole time removing, we're going to have another Magic Illusionist on board anyway. Provided we don't see Death's Breath or Dragon Summoner as an evolved, for example, which kind of sucks. But they have had to use a lot of resources to clear a lot of small threats, and we're starting to move into the turns where we can really start dropping bigger threats. Especially with this. Even though I don't need the health, being able to get those Earth Sigils on board for cheap, while at the same time getting a body that can contest this 3-2, is quite valuable. Although I think I probably would have been better off using the Ward to trade here instead, just because I could have protected the 2-3 a little better. And avoided, you know, a huge potential drop later on. And of course, Staircase to Paradise. Not too surprising. And Rehab. Rehab, gonna be a pain. I should be able to use stuff to trade into it, so that's not too bad. As long as I don't board lock myself, I'm gonna be okay. And because of what I've got, I shouldn't be able to board lock myself. A nice trade, and then 4 damage to face, putting them to 9 on turn 6. I like how that goes. Unfortunately though, Dragon at 10 is a real threat. If they drop anything huge, like Bahamut, now I'm going to have a lot of trouble dealing with it, unless I draw into optimal draws, which, Dance of Death, about the only decent answer to this Bahamut here. And with Oz, we can easily use both while also drawing out cards. Which was a good risk to make. I'd rather draw cards, risk losing a couple of spells, than not take this turn against Dragon. Although that 3-7 ward is now going to be extremely difficult to deal with my current hand. Especially with no evolve. The only advantage is I don't lose anything. So these mages are useless. We have nothing else to use them with. Do decide to take the route where I can draw 2 cards. That's why I played one of the mages first. And unfortunately, Breath of Salamander. Again, not losing any spells, so I'm kind of okay with that. And we're going to take pretty minimal damage this turn. So the only thing that would kill us would be a OTK combo, basically, with Genesis, Yerd, Dreadsea, stuff like that. But with 3 things on board, unless they do decide to make trades next turn, that's not going to be possible, and they would need optimal cards in hand, as they do only have 3. So one of them would have to be Dreadsea, and then they'd have to hope that one of the other 3 would fit what they need. Which turns out that's not the case. But they do have a pretty difficult board. Although my lethal option, pretty straightforward. All I need is Mutagenic Bolt, and they'll pretty much be dead. I mean, well, they will be dead because Halo Golem is 3 damage, Mutagenic Bolt is 4, so Sibyl's healing is negated, and then the rats finish off the game. Probably one of my more favourite finishes, just because, you know, Mutagenic Bolt is awesome fun, and Dragon can't really do much against that. I mean, what do you do to avoid Mutagenic Bolt? Not really anything. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button for more content. Of course, deck list in the description below as normal if you want to have some fun with some fast dirt roam, which is still a great deck. Even now, it's definitely not what it used to be against D-Shift, but it's still got a lot of good matchups. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Catch you guys next time. See ya.